You did not even send me your born anyway. Why in the world I'm around, it's hard to say. You did not even send me your born anyway. Why in the world I'm around, it's hard to say.
Just go. We can just cut out the beginning of it.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another consecutive episode of Reading Fan Fiction with Teddy and Peter. With you, as always, is one of your two co-hosts, Teddy, and with me, as always, and with you, as always, is...
Is Peter. I'm here. And I really appreciate you mentioning this is consecutivity, punctuality. These are the sorts of things that we value at a podcast
Yeah.
like this.
Well, we know when we're wanted. We know when we're not. It's just been in the air to bring the podcast back, at least just to cover this breaking news story.
Yeah,
It
breaking.
really deserved the podcast treatment. It was Peter who brought this to my attention.
It's true.
So Peter, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And let's be
You're
clear.
welcome.
We're being yeah. We're talking, of course, about the GameFreak leak. GameFreak, developers of the famous Pokemon series.
Pokemon games.
Yeah, Pokemon games. Which, by the way, I mean, as a side note, the most money incorporated into a single franchise, Pokemon.
Really?
Yeah, more than Marvel
More than
by a
oh
ton. More than Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty, I think, is number 2. And then
oh
Pokemon
wow.
is it's like a $3 billion franchise or some absurd number. Anyway,
Because no
what
other
is
franchise has
yeah,
ever really successfully, I think, profited from the card gaming
mm,
marketplace.
true
I
card
think
gaming.
Pokemon clearly came on early, staked their claim, and then
Yeah.
everything else after that, was under the shadow of Pokemon.
Yeah, no, that's spot on, accurate. I would say
And I would say
yeah, go
this
ahead. Yeah.
too,
Mhm. Yeah.
that Pokemon was a game where you got the cards and you didn't even play the game. Or
Yeah,
at least
that's
I
actually
didn't. Some
most
people
people.
did.
I think people just like to look at them.
Um,
Yeah, that's a good point. Um, all of this adds to the gravity, honestly, of the situation that we have before us. As I mentioned, there was a leak of Game Freak's internal data, for lack of a better term, internal sort of, everything that they were doing internally on computers was stolen and released on the internet. Um, Among this, I would say, wealth of information were stories about the lore of Pokemon. Now, if you're a Pokemon fan, you know that Game Freak is very intentional about its choice of what types of lore they include in their games. Um, and in these stories, these lore stories, drops, if you will, um, they maybe deviate a little bit from what uh, most people would associate with Pokemon or Game Freak or any sort of those kinds of Nintendo generally, I'd say. And
mm,
I'd say it's an interesting, gray area that this podcast is always ready to take on. What is fan
mm.
fiction? What isn't fan fiction? I mean, they read like fan fiction, but they're created by the creator of Pokemon. And so in that way, are they fan fiction
Or are they gospel?
or are they gospel? It's true. And if they're gospel, I mean, you do not want this to be your gospel. I'll just say that much.
So, Peter, we don't know really literally who wrote this within Game Freak.
I'm sure somebody does. What I don't understand is that like I don't know if these started off as in Japanese because there is like definitely a like it sounds like it wasn't written by somebody who had a strong command of the English language, which either speaks to poor translation or maybe they were written in English by people by Japanese people, or maybe they're just bad.
Maybe it
Hard to
was
say.
poorly translated. Or did you say that already?
Yeah, well, I
That
don't
was the
know. I
first
don't
one you
know.
said, I think.
I honestly just don't know what I would imagine they needed to be in Japanese at first, right? I mean, why would a company full of Japanese people write these really, I mean, you'll see, bizarre
Yeah.
is really the only way to
So
describe it. Um, I don't
to
know
let the
why they would
listener
write them in
know,
English of all things. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, Peter has read some of these that
Yeah,
I'm about to read. I've not looked at them at all.
yeah.
So when I read it, I haven't seen it yet. So I'm in the dark like you, listener, unless you've already read it.
Yeah, which I mean, if our listener is Nico, I read it to him, so
Well, we have way more listeners than that.
I'm not saying we
Thank
don't. I
you
just mean for Nico specifically, he will have, I mean,
for
he
those
will
of you
be a
who,
listener, so that is,
excuse me, for those of you who give on Patreon, we thank you.
it sounded like a Memorial Day service.
Thank you
For
for your
those of you
service.
who,
But
yeah.
I mean, without
I mean,
further
just I'd say
ado,
jump into it, yeah.
so this is the first one you sent me.
Yeah,
It
I would
starts
say
with
you
in
should read it
bold
in that order.
theme, original sin based on the current Pokemon world. So for those of you who aren't aware, original
Sin exists
sin
in the Pokemon world.
sin is the idea. Original sin is that you are born
Why
uh,
you're explaining original sin?
born with sin.
Yeah.
So does Jesus Christ exist in the Pokemon world?
Well, honestly,
Does Adam and
I would
Eve
say
exist?
no. These stories speak to a world where Jesus Christ's uh whole frame of mind was not present. For better or for worse, quite frankly.
Well, let's get to it. We're getting sidetracked.
Yeah.
In the distant past, when the boundary between Pokemon and humans was still blurred, now that's what you pointed out earlier, Pierre, that it all starts like that. There was a woman and her companions. Every day they were bored, so they would often catch slack off. Is that a real thing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean it's like wait, I'll show you a picture. I don't what I said I think so. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. But I don't
Slake off?
slack off. I guess it's supposed to be
Oh,
slack off because they're
it's
like,
the
yeah, yeah.
listener, I encourage you to look up slack off. It's like a sloth.
Not jack off, slack off.
Yeah, slack off. Let me be clear. We want you to search slack off,
Slack off, not men jacking off.
not Siri, men jacking off. So they would often catch Slackoth living in the nearby forest. They played cruel games with the captured Slackoth, sometimes killing them for fun, gouging out their eyes or cutting off their ears.
I just
One day,
obviously wait, can I just
yeah, yeah,
obviously that's a very violent image. I do think it just as as a small point, I think it's funny that they use like this is another thing that's confusing to me about the language. They say slack off like it's a singular, but
yeah.
they're using it like the word deer or like moose,
Oh, yeah.
which is
Geese.
like
Or
it's like
no,
a
that's
that's a
a
weird detail, I think. Like why include like why not just say slack offs?
that's a good point.
Anyways,
One day, the woman was walking alone in the forest and saw Slackoth hanging from a tree. She climbed the tree to catch it, but slipped and injured herself. At that moment, a Vigoroth appeared.
That's the evolved version of Slackoth. He's sort of like a bigger, kind of like sloth looking thing,
He
but
is that.
like dangerous.
Listener,
More
I
dangerous.
encourage you to look up
Yeah.
Vigoroth.
Yeah.
And also, I think in the description of this video, I'll put a link to the images.
Yeah,
So
that's a good
you
point.
can look for yourself.
Yeah.
Uh, One day, the woman was walking alone in the forest and saw a Slackoth hanging from a tree. She climbed the tree to catch it, but slipped and injured herself. At that moment, a Vigoroth appeared. This Vigoroth had a torn ear. The woman, startled, tried to flee, but her injured leg hurt too much and she couldn't move. The Vigoroth with the torn ear suddenly attacked her when it saw her. The woman lost consciousness. When she awoke, she was in an unfamiliar place. Before her lay a clear lake, surrounded by trees from which many Slackoth and Vigoroth were hanging. All the Pokemon bore wounds somewhere on their bodies, marks left by the woman and her companions. Upon closer inspection, she noticed that some of the Slackoth hanging from the trees were corpses. Oh my God. They were the very Slackoth that the woman and her friends had killed and discarded. The Slackoth were throwing those
Man, you're
corpses into the lake.
hard time.
Terrified, the woman tried to run away, but a Slay King appeared. Well,
That's like the
I
third
think
evolution.
yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta look at it though.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. It's certainly worth a look.
Slay King, Slay
Play
King,
King.
Slay King. Okay, looks like a gorilla. Uh, Slaking appeared. This Slaking also had a torn ear. The woman realized that this was the same Vigoroth she had seen earlier, and fear overwhelmed her, causing her to faint once more. When the woman regained consciousness, she found herself at the entrance of the forest near her home, surrounded by her friends. They carried her back to her house. Sometime later, the woman gave birth to a child, but it wasn't a human child, it was a Slackoth.
Wow.
She intended to abandon it, but couldn't bring herself to do
Damn.
so.
If she lived in a state where you could get an abortion, she wouldn't have had to just abandon it, you know?
That's a good point.
That's what we're voting for in November.
Please vote in November. Uh, she stopped meeting with her friends and decided to raise the slack off.
It's
One day,
responsible.
her friends, concerned about her, visited the area near her home. They found they found the Slackoth sleeping there, the child of the woman. As they always did, they caught the Slackoth, stabbed it in the chest, and killed it. They took its corpse and headed to the woman's house. When she saw the slain Slackoth, the woman was overwhelmed with sorrow. She grabbed the Slackoth's body and ran deep into the forest. Her friends, shocked, chased after her. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the surroundings suddenly opened up, and they found the same clear lake from before. Around the lake were many Slackoth and Vigoroth. The woman stood before the lake holding the lifeless body of the Slackoth. She threw herself into the water. Afterwards, the woman's friends began to treat Slackoth as companions, just as she had in her final moments.
Wow.
So
Powerful
that's
stuff.
the end of the first one, right? Does the
Powerful
second
stuff.
one continue that?
No, it's a
Wow.
new story.
So that was kind of a combination of Murakami, I'd say
I would say
influenced. I would say
that's definitely the
Bible
most
influenced.
artistic one.
I mean,
That's I would agree with you. That's maybe something that would happen in like Murakami. I think that's a definitely a good take. That being said, that one was like,
creepypasta.
well, I
That's
no, no, I yes, but it was, there was something there, maybe. It sort of it gave me the sense of like a legend, like a religious
yes.
tale.
No, it definitely it was very eerie. Well, the violence and such, it's very like a Greek myth.
Yeah, that too. That too.
Um, yeah. I would watch that episode of Pokemon. Audience, do you hear me?
Well, let's see. Let's see if you would watch an episode of Pokemon based on the next one. I think that's the real question. And I think that's a pretty good segue,
Or
you know.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm on to the second one now.
Okay.
Theme this time is the collapse of culture and relationships. There was a time when the boundary between Pokemon and humans was blurred. In a coastal village, there was a man. One day, as he was walking along the shore, he found a female octillery washed up on the
I
beach.
think it's
Okay.
actually before you read the next sentence, I think it's important you know what octillery looks like.
Well, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Like a little octopus squid thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I just looked up octillery and the top story from Forbes. Pokemon fans don't understand the Game Freak leaks.
I'd say I understand them. I think I understand them all too well. And I gotta say,
Well,
by the
I'm
next
not gonna
sentence,
read them.
everybody is going to understand that.
Okay, okay. Uh, okay. The man had relations with the octillery and then threw it back into the sea. The next day, he went to the same spot and found the same octillery again. He once more had relations with it and threw it back into the sea as before. One night, after several days had passed, the man had a dream. In the dream, the octillery spoke to him. I cannot come to you, but I will deliver our child to you. It is our child, yours and mine. A lot of common themes right off the bat between this one and the last one.
In the next one, there's even more common themes, I would say.
If
I would
this,
say that
if
they're all pretty much about the same themes, definitely. Yeah, that's a good way of describing it.
wow, this is
Fetishes is
so
maybe another way, another term you could use.
this is so abstract and daring.
Yeah.
Okay, the next morning the man went to the place where he had met the octillery. There he found a boy. The man took the boy home and raised him. Time passed, the boy grew into a young man, and the father passed away. The young man was always lonely. One day, as the young man was walking along the shore, he saw a group of peoples playing in the distance. They all held very large swords in their hands as they danced. The young man approached the people, and as he got closer, he saw that Sharpedo were playing along the beach.
Yeah, again, it's like the singular for multiple
Yeah,
Sharpedo, which is
like a herd, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Sharpedo is
this is
just a
not an
shark. It's a shark, is
this
what it
is not an evolution of
No, nothing to
uh
do with our octillery, except that they're like,
octillery,
I mean, they're both in the water.
water based. Why would they be playing? Oh, along the beach. I guess that makes sense.
I mean,
When
it
he
doesn't
tried to
really
get,
make sense. You need to be,
yeah,
I think you need to be a little
because it would be
further
too
out.
shallow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know that much about Sharpedo. That one wasn't a fan favorite, I'll be honest. I think it's kind of wild that it's even getting a mention here. Why not just say Magikarp? Everybody fucking loves
Yes.
Magikarp.
Slay King. Slay King. Okay. When he tried to get closer, even closer, the Sharpedo suddenly slept into the sea all at once. However, one of the Sharpedo lingered, looking around 3 times before swimming away. At the spot where the Sharpedo had been playing, there was a large sword lying on the ground. It was a shape he had never seen before, and it was very sharp and pointed. The young man took the sword home.
Not exactly sure
This
what's really meant by that, but
the story has an undeniable momentum, even though it's weird. It's pulling me along, but it's also written so boring.
yeah, I would agree. Well, I mean it's written like porn, quite frankly.
Well, listen, I wouldn't know about that. I have never seen porn in my life. Swear to God.
Okay.
The next day, the young man took the sword and went into the forest. While walking through the forest, he encountered a Usaring. Uh,
Ursaring, Ursaring.
Ursaring,
It's a
thank you.
fucking bear. It's just a bear.
Okay, got it. He tried slashing at the. How do you say it again?
Ursaring.
Ursaring's mouth with the sword, and the mouth was easily severed. Next, he stabbed the Ursaring's eyes, and they were easily pierced. Finally, the young man thrust the sword into the Ursaring's chest, and the Ursaring died effortlessly. That day, the young man killed 30 Ursaring. After that, he always carried the sword with him, playing by injuring the Pokemon he encountered or cutting off parts of their bodies. One autumn, while the young man was searching for firewood, he lost his way. After walking for a while, he stumbled upon a Ursaring's den. Inside, there was an
As
elderly
you do.
Ursaring lying down. The elderly Ursaring looked at the young man and said, "Come inside." So this is, I mean, this is the first time a Pokemon has spoken in either
True.
of these.
It's true. It's true. It's a good point.
Oh.
Mm,
The
Please
young man
stop
had
fucking stabbing us.
the young man hesitated, but as it was getting dark outside, he entered the den. Before long, people began to enter the den, one after another, filling the room completely. Looking
The
closer, he
den.
saw that all the people had scarred faces and some were missing their eyes. They were chatting among themselves, but the young man ignored them and fell asleep. At one point, he woke up to find the elderly Ursaring lying beside him. He fell asleep again. When he awoke once more, there were many people around talking about something. Again, the young man ignored him and went back to sleep. When spring
As
arrived,
you
the
do.
elderly Ursaring spoke. Do you want to go home? Then I shall send you home. When you return, a whale lord, okay,
Yeah, you gotta look that. That's just a
will
whale.
will soon be found near the village. Yeah, whale lord, I will still look it up.
Wailord's a sick Pokemon. Wailord's so cool.
877 pounds.
You're supposed to like whale lords, you ride on the whale lord when you have surf. Like you know in the surf animation in
Yeah, I
Pokemon,
do. I
it's
do know
supposed to
that.
be a whale lord.
But more than just whale lord can surf.
That's true. No, but you're not on
You
the Pokemon like calls surf, like casts surf, and then a whale lord comes from the water and transports you and all of your Pokemon like on its back.
Oh, it's not a move that you teach one and then it does it.
It is. It is. It's just that the move is not that you're on the Pokemon who casted Surf. All the Pokemon that casted Surf did was call the Whale Lord.
So whale lord is just for hire in this world to do.
Yeah.
So that ability is like pretty much making a phone call.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, what do you want me to say?
Uh, sorry, we got distracted. I'll start from the beginning of this quotation.
Oh yeah,
Do you
sorry.
want to go home? Then I shall send you home. When you return, a whale lord will soon be found near the village. Go there. We will send a man. You must leave the sword behind and bring a witness. Why did you shut up? Why did you do such things, cutting faces and slicing off noses? The elderly
Ursaring.
Ursaring escorted the young man back to the village. Upon his return, the young man recounted everything that had happened to the villagers. The following morning, the young
By the
man
way,
took
it
some
was everything
villagers
that
with
had
him.
happened to the villagers, not he didn't recount everything that happened to the villagers. It was like the prepositional phrase was, it's the young man. Never mind.
Oh, yeah, I see. If you look, the young man recounted everything that had happened to the villagers. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean.
Recounted to the
Well,
villagers
unless,
everything that had happened.
well, I was gonna say unless it was the villagers who had been walking
No.
in with like cut up body parts,
So that's what
but
it
that wouldn't make
seems
sense
like.
because he wouldn't be
Yeah.
recounting that to anyone.
But it's weird because it says that there are people that are entering the den.
Yeah.
And then Ursur, the elderly Ursaring says, "We will send a man." And so it's unclear if the people are just Ursaring, because that would make way more sense. And then who are the fuck are those people? But it also doesn't say Ursaring, it says people. Anyways, you should just finish this. This one's almost done. So it's
The following morning, the young man took some villagers with him and headed to the shore. As they walked along the coast, they found a huge whale lord. Nearby on the beach was Teddy Rusa. Okay, I know what that looks like. When it noticed the young man, the Teddy Rusa hid in the forest.
it's
And
Teddy
a
Ursa.
large,
Teddy Ursa.
what did I say? Teddy Rusa?
Yeah.
And a large Ursa ring came out in its place. As the Ursa ring charged him, the young man tried to draw the sword he had hidden, but it got stuck and he couldn't pull it out. So he rushed at the Ursa ring with his bare hands. The young man and the Ursa ring grappled, punching each other's faces. They strangled each other with all their strength, and so they choked each other to death, collapsing on top of one another. The villagers went back and told others what they had seen. These are so bizarre. So I said Murakami before. I'll also say Borges now.
Maybe. Maybe. I mean, if you
I
recall,
mean,
this
a
is
lot
the
of
same
falling
one with the
asleep.
octillery. Like this was the
Yeah,
octillery one.
but
That's what's so
the
I like I
well,
don't
there's the Borges story where there's the guy in the jungle and he keeps falling asleep.
yeah, but that this I mean,
That's just like this.
yeah. Yeah, you're right, my bad. No, I mean I think this one's pretty wild. I don't really know what this means. I mean, I guess it's generally saying that you shouldn't have sex with Pokemon because your offspring
Yeah,
would be
it's hard.
psychopaths.
It's hard to discern why this was written
I know, right?
or like like what is this
Exactly.
for?
Exactly.
It's so
That's the
weird.
big question.
And like I said, creepypasta before, and it
Yeah.
is just, I mean, it's creepy.
Yeah.
It's creepy that this exists, and the stories themselves are creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I definitely agree. Um, but it's yeah, and they have like a sort of Aesop's fable, almost an Aesop's fable
Yes.
quest. Like you I'm
Oh,
supposed to learn something from this. Like
yeah.
what?
They
I
do
don't, what
feel
am I supposed to know?
like parables.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's like this isn't really a parable. It's makes no sense.
It's just like bizarre.
Yeah. What it really sounds like is like autocomplete. Like when you do like a little bit more directed autocomplete.
Yeah. So I have a third one here. I
Yeah.
think that'll probably be I
This one's
think
pretty long. So it's
yeah.
probably that this is and this is like the one that has become very
Okay.
talked about. I'll just say that.
Okay. So this will be our last one.
Yeah.
Theme of this one is the relationship between humans and Pokemon slash human-like ways of thinking. This one starts, the opening line is slightly different, and it's also in
Oh,
bold.
that's true. Oh, that is true.
Long ago, when the boundary between Pokemon and humans was unclear,
Dot
in
dot
the
dot.
previous two, yeah, with dot dot dot. In the previous two, it said it was blurred.
Yeah.
So
And I'd say
that might,
actually that's a pretty significant difference given what
yeah,
happens later.
sure. There was a village somewhere. That's the first sentence. One day, a girl from that village went into the mountains to gather firewood. She found well-dried dead wood deep in the forest, so she kept going further in. Before she realized it, the sun was setting and she had lost her way. Around her, there were droppings from a typhlosion. Oh, I have
Typhlosion.
to look.
That's yeah, you definitely need to look that one up.
Typhlosion.
It's one of the it's not it's like
Oh,
it's
this is
the
a cool looking
evolution
one.
of one of the starters. Um Why can't
Cyndaquil.
Cyndaquil, duh.
It's
Yeah,
a fire
yeah, it's a fire type.
type left droppings, which made the girl anxious. Just then, a man appeared from the other side of the forest. His face didn't resemble anyone from the village, but he was very handsome. The man said, "You must be lost, right? I know the way down the mountain, but with your pace, it would be midnight before we got there. I'll take you back tomorrow morning. So why don't you rest at my place tonight?"
Maybe it's cold outside.
Yeah, no kidding. The girl had no choice but to agree to the man's suggestions. The man took her hand and began to walk. As evening fell, they arrived at a large cave. "This is my home. You must be hungry, right? Wait here." Saying that, the man went outside the cave. After he left, a red light shone from far away in the mountains, and there was the sound of trees swaying. Before long, the man returned carrying many red berries. He said, "Eat this, then let's sleep for the night. Even if you wake before I do, don't look at my face." Oh,
A normal thing for somebody to say.
it's like Shrek.
Yeah, it's like Shrek in a certain sense. It's like Shrek if Shrek got lost on a mountain.
In Maine.
And yeah.
Sorry, I got distracted. Uh, Berries, don't look at my face. The next morning, when the girl woke up, the man was still asleep. She honored their promise and stayed lying down, waiting. Before long, she fell back asleep. She was awakened by the man's voice. When she looked outside, the sun was already setting. "Today we'll eat green berries. Wait here." With that, he went out of the cave. This is very fable-esque. After he
Yeah, this
left, the
one is
same red
this
light
or the
shone
beginning
from
of this
far
one.
away, and the sound of trees swaying echoed once more. By the
Yes.
time the sun had completely set, the man returned, carrying many green berries. He said, "Eat this, then let's sleep for the night. Even if you wake up before I do, don't look at my face." The girl expressed her concern that her family would be worried and that she wanted to go
Excuse
home
me, I'd like to
soon.
express my concern with the fact that you have now kidnapped me.
Yeah. The man yawned widely and tapped her on the head. At that moment, she completely forgot about her family and home. The two of them ate the green berries together and then fell asleep. The same routine continued, with them waking up when the sun had set, the man going out to gather berries, and excuse me,
Yikes.
with the two of them eating and sleeping together. I have something tickling my throat. Eventually, the girl realized that the man was a Typhlosion. How?
I mean, you
She
didn't
she
you
just
notice
she
that?
just well, I figured that out, but like what she thought it's like, I saw those droppings uh however long ago, and now I think that this man is a Typhlosion.
I mean, what other explanation would there be?
As
Occam's
winter
razor.
approached, yeah, the Typhlosion dug deeper into the cave. So now it's just a tug. And also he's using the singular.
Yeah.
Hmm. Go and gather wood for firewood. Break off the branches from the higher parts of tall trees. The girl tried to do as the Typhlosion instructed, but the tall trees scared her, so she could only climb the shorter ones. When she brought back some branches, the Typhlosion said, "That won't do. It's not from If it's not from higher branches, humans will find us." When the snow began to fall, the two of them lived in the depths of the caves, mostly sleeping. There was plenty of food. Occasionally they would wake up, eat, and then go back to sleep. One day, when she woke, the girl was holding a child. After several days and
Hmm.
nights passed,
I
the
wonder how that got
Typhlosion
there.
said, "Your father is looking for you, but you are my wife, so I can't return you. I will have to fight him."
That's what they say in Pokemon too, like in the show
Yeah,
and the games and stuff.
yeah, I will have to fight him. The girl pleaded, "Please don't do that. Don't kill my father. How can I live with you if you kill my family? You're a good person, so please stay here with me and sleep." "All right, let's stay here and sleep." The man nodded. The next day, the Typhlosion woke the girl and said, "Your father is close by. Go and see." When the girl went out, a snowstorm was raging. She climbed the low tree and broke off a branch. When she returned to the cave, the Typhlosion was singing a song that she had never heard before.
You have to sing this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do I have to sing this? Okay.
Yeah. You have to do sort of like a Rumpelstiltskin type.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
like a
exactly.
sing. Well, I'm not gonna do that, but we encourage the listeners to imagine me doing that. All right. You broke off a branch, didn't you? Soon your father will come here. I am going to do something bad to your father. If I am killed, take my eyes, my voice, and my heart. Build a fire at the spot where I was killed and burn them. And while they burn, sing this song until the fire goes out. The girl said, "Please don't do it. Don't kill my father. If
The
anyone
girl
is to
said,
be
"What the fuck
killed,
are you talking about?"
let it be you. Goodbye. We will never meet again." With those words, the Typhlosion went outside. After a while, there was a loud noise, and when the girl looked outside, she saw her father had killed the Typhlosion. She rushed out and said to her father, "Father, you have killed my husband. I've been living with him all this time. He was my husband. Please give me my husband, the Typhlosion's eyes, voice, and heart." The girl built a fire at the place where the Typhlosion had been killed and put his eyes, voice, and heart into the flames. Yeah, this is such like origin myth
Yeah.
vibes. Type beat. She sang the song the Typhlosion had taught her until the fire burned out. The girl's father built a small hut on the edge of the village for the girl and her child to live in. Eventually, spring arrived. The young men of the village often teased and tormented the girl and her child. It became worse over time, and one day they tried to drape a Typhlosion's pelt over them. The girl returned home and pleaded with her parents, "Please tell the villagers to stop teasing us. If they put that pelt on us, we will surely become Typhlosion. We are already half Typhlosion as it is." So they're making fun of her for being impregnated by
Yeah,
a
by
Typhlosion.
Typhlosion, yeah.
Despite the parents' pleas, the villagers did not listen. In fact, they found it even more amusing and eventually draped the Typhlosion pelts over the girl and her child. At that moment, they howled loudly and vanished into the depths of the forest. The two were never seen again. And so people came to understand Typhlosion are half human beings.
Huh? What?
Really? Necessarily so?
What the fuck?
Yeah. So another story featuring weird
Yeah,
interspecies rape,
yeah. And it's always the Pokemon doing the raping.
which is very
I guess that's
disturbing.
not true, actually. I guess the Octillery one, he
Yeah,
raped the Octillery.
that's true. That was an ex
Yeah, yeah.
I mean it's all really shocking.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, shocking, yeah,
And
definitely.
I would like to know if anyone out there among our listeners on our Patreon, our Twitch, our
Mhm.
Twitter, our Instagram, our
Yeah.
email, our Reddit,
X or X
our X, our Blue Sky,
or
Snapchat,
Mastodon.
Snap Mastodon, Snapchat us if you have any leads on this because we want to
Hmm.
get to the
Hmm.
bottom of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Send us a YouTube short. Like make a YouTube short, but tag
yeah,
both of us in it.
yeah. But yeah, so the mystery continues. Um, who knows what'll happen next from
I
the
mean, I think it's
leaks at Game Free.
I feel like it's worth at least mentioning that um it was not I don't think that there was any imagery before this of a Pokemon bleeding, or of not being an integral whole in like, Pokemon don't fight each other and then get like they don't bleed, they lose HP. Like nobody cuts open a Pokemon. Like, are you kidding me? It's a Pokemon.
Mo Much less than cut out their eyes, voice, and heart.
Yeah, exactly, and burn them. whatever the fuck that means. Um, and so I guess what I'm saying is this is a real sea change, I think, in how people are going to perceive Pokemon. A
Mm.
watershed moment, if you will.
Yeah, this is going to cause people to question, are the people who are making these, are they really fit to be doing this anymore? If this is the kind of
Yeah,
lore that they're associating with my beloved game.
yeah, my beloved game franchise.
Not my Pokemon.
Yeah, not my Pokemon, not my Pokemon. Um, but there's two new Pokemon games coming out, confirmed by this leak. So we'll see. Maybe these stories will make an appearance there.
Yeah, this will be the first gritty Pokemon.
Realistic Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, these are fascinating.
A peek into the mind of a madman.
Yeah, surely.
Yeah,
But with that, I think we'll leave you, the listener, to digest, process that,
yeah.
smash that like button, and subscribe to
Mhm.
follow us.
Fuck
Um,
that
what
like button into submission.
so you would never miss an update.
Exactly, exactly. Well,
Um,
yeah, appreciate your listening. And yeah,
thank you, everyone listening.
yeah, we'll see you in another 2 years. Is that a wrap?
Yeah, stop.